Ladies, it's time for One Piece. Last time, we talked about the introduction to Drum Island's arc. Psst, go watch it if you haven't already, okay? I'll give you a cookie if you do. We were just introduced to Dr. Kuroha, Tony Chopper, and of course, Big Chungus, or maybe it's just Big Chungai, considering the amount of the chung these things have. Either way, my name is Ben, and I'm here to review Drum Island. From top to bottom, from me to you. How do you do? But maybe you want to watch my videos on Ara Basta Part 1 and 2, like, oh, I don't know, right now. Also, my One Piece tier list videos, and wait, you do? Well, okay, then become a Patreon, as this series is patron supported. If not, join my lovely, chill, warm, and fluffy community on Discord. You get to talk to, I don't know, little old me after all. We also watch a bunch of anime on the weekends. How could you not want to join that?
Now do it, and your journey to the dark side will be complete.
Picking up from the last video, Dalton is on a sleigh with the other Straw Hats as they quickly head to Dr. Kuroha's location in the village of Cocoa Weed to get chocolate wasted, I assume. However, the reason that Dalton didn't consider Kuroha coming to town is because she already did the day prior. Meaning that it's just as Dalton says, Kuroha really only comes to town once in a while. So the real question is simple. Why twice in a row? If something like that is so rare, why twice in a row all of a sudden? These are questions I ask myself in the shower. Though, interestingly enough, Dalton apologizes to the Straw Hats because there aren't enough doctors in the country. Vivi reassures Dalton that, well, that's okay, after all, this is sort of out of his control, and this shows, honestly, the good nature of Vivi to reassure Dalton. You can see in her facial expression, she's trying her best to ease Dalton's mind, while Dalton clearly is contemplating a lot right now. I imagine that in this situation, he's taking mental notes to have more doctors in the country as they rebuild. This is what I would do if I were him, at least. So, as they hurry onto their destination, we see a flying Chungus, a rare Chungus. It dives at Sanji, Luffy, and Nami as it uses its claws to try and take them out. They quickly realize that this is the Lappins that Dalton had warned them about, and oh golly, the shock in their body language is tantamount. Sanji, however, picks up that these Lappins are so well adapted to their environment, they're actually the ones with the disadvantage here. In other words, this is not their game. Luffy, eager to get into the action, is stopped by Sanji, and he's reminded that he can't simply go in guns blazing like that because Nami is attached to his person. So, by doing that, he's potentially making Nami's fever worse. Because of this, I really felt the tension in this moment for that very reason. Now that Luffy is pretty much relegated to dodging, which even then that can't be good for Nami with her jostling around like that. Now remove the most important chess piece in their puzzle, Luffy. You take out the OP Rubber Man and nerf the entire situation, and that naturally will create a lot of tension. And we see this as they commence their delicate balancing act, where Sanji is launching an all-out attack, but well-thought-out attacks and dodges, while Luffy is trying his best to simply not move around a lot and dodge attack after attack by the Chungai. Sanji puts it best, dodge and run, because if you can dodge a Chungus, you can dodge Chungai. On the other side of the island, things are just as bad as Walpole and his men begin their reinvasion of Drum Island, killing some of the guards, which, as a reminder, are not trained, but civilians. So they stood no chance against Walpole and his 10 tyrant pirates. This is where we also learned that this guy is named Chess, which, just as last time, is a very apt name. What's going on with all of these very apt names? We also are introduced to Robson, Walpole's woolly hippo. Turns out that Walpole actually killed Robson's brother and even mocks Robson for it. This shows the absolute craziness of Walpole to kill Robson's brother, then cheer him on as if it's some glorious occasion. This is a display afterwards when it's revealed to Walpole that the Straw Hats are on Drum Island, or as Walpole calls it, his island. So, they head to Drum Kingdom in search of Luffy and his men on a mission to kill all of the Straw Hats. Also, small side note, I like the description for Chess and Kuromarimo, who are both labeled as former Drum Kingdom Evil Chief of Staff. Like, evil is literally in their job description. That's both frightening and sad, and the only time I've been frightened and sad is when I looked at myself in the mirror. Heyo! I'll see you guys next Monday. Thanks for coming out. Though, Dalton is also informed of the presence of his enemy as he heads back to Bighorn Village to defend his people from Walpole of Tin. And I'm not gonna lie, I love the art of him riding on his horse back to Bighorn swiftly, as with a look of badassery upon himself. For some reason, it actually reminded me of Samurai Jack, just in the way it looked and how dramatic it was. He even had a badass line where he says that he's not after justice because both him and Walpole are guilty of the same sin, and asks him to just wait. Man, Dalton is shouldering a lot of this burden based on his words, but most importantly, it seems like he's accepting it all, shouldering it, and coming into the situation with the most massive pipe you will ever see. So cool. So, Bighorn prepares for the defense of their homeland against Walpole and the 10 Tyrant Pirates. And Luffy and Sanji as well deal with their problem as the Lapins start to jump up and down in unison, causing the potential of a landslide. Just ramping up and up and up the tension as much as Oda possibly can. This is something I've actually really liked so far about this chapter, and especially this arc. The tension is definitely a defining trait. Even Usopp and Vivi, who are trying to make it to Gyasta, are dealing with a lot of tension as they miss the sign to Gyasta while arguing. Which clearly is Usopp's fault. Don't at me, Veronica, but really though, thanks for watching, Veronica. I appreciate your viewership. We also get a taste of how delusional Walpole is as he stands atop Robson, calling to his people to give him praise. Then is informed by Kuromarimo that the Straw Hats are headed for Drum Castle. This sends Walpole into a shock as he realizes that Kuroha is now in his town. But before Walpole can whine and complain, Dalton makes a heroic entrance that may as well make him look like the Messiah of Drum Island as he slashes Walpole across the chest and announces his intent to kill him. Chess, interestingly, asks why he's still alive, and we learn something pretty unique. A defining trait of Drum Island is that it's called the Great Medical Land of Drum Island. We are then introduced to a bevy of doctors as they repair, stitch, and scalpel Walpole of Tin back to good health in mere seconds. Then, Dalton tells Walpole that he doesn't belong here as they confront each other to fight. This was a cool moment. Learning about the true meaning behind Drum Island, why it's so special in the Grand Line. I mean, this is an island full of medical wonders, and Walpole has partitioned off these doctors to his own pirate crew, no less. Once again, cementing the fact that Walpole only cares about himself. However, a bombshell is dropped as it's revealed that Dalton was at one point Walpole's vassal, the former commander of the Drum Kingdom militia, and is the only one who stayed behind to defend the people of Drum Island. Though even more surprising is that the outsiders thought Drum Island was a place of advanced medicine, when in reality there were only 20 doctors and they all worked within Drum Castle, expelling all of the others from the country. Walpole justifies this with a grin, saying just politics, but Dalton yells back in anger, because to him, it was bad governance. Walpole doesn't realize the position he's put everyone else in. Without doctors, all of the people not in that castle had to beg for any kind of medical treatment. But Walpole has heard enough of it as he orders his men to kill Dalton, who reveals he's holder of the ox fruit, which he is able to make his outwardly appearance that of an ox, and is so fast that he can create an after image like it's freaking Dragon Ball Z. Also, that he's a part of the Zone family, which I assume is important because of, of course it is. It's One Piece. Everything is important. But Chess draws his bow and comments. They know what his weakness is as the people of Drum Island flank him to fight and defend for Dalton's sake. As they do, Chess fires, launching 3 arrows into the torso of Dalton. The weakness? It was the people of Drum Island. In other words, Dalton dared to have a heart, and because he didn't just go along with whatever Walpole wanted, he had a conscience and cared for the people suffering and the people left rejected by their very own king. Dalton wasn't a coward. He wasn't self-absorbed. He wasn't anything but a man who cared for his people. He was more of a leader than Walpole ever was. Walpole wasn't even the pinky finger of Dalton's hand, but Dalton was over and over again the man Walpole can never be. But as Dalton falls to the ground, pierced by the arrows of his former men, the Lappins that Luffy and Sanji were dealing with cause a landslide. Now, potentially without a leader, Drum Island, and more importantly, Bighorn, are in trouble. So, now as the avalanche is starting to make its way to Bighorn, Luffy and Sanji, they panic. What do? Who comes first? Well, according to Sanji, it's Nami, because she comes first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. I guess this means not even Sanji gets to come. Hey, I'll be here every week, for the love of God. Please help me. So the two then jump up to a ledge to dodge the avalanche, but even then it's taken over by the avalanche, shredding through the trees in its path. Now, they've ran into a new issue. They've avoided the avalanche, but now they're heading down the mountain way too fast. As they head down the mountain, dodging Lappins as if their life depends on it, because, well, it does, Sanji now has to catch Luffy before he heads into the torn pieces of wood, acting as natural spikes in the ground. And it works! They both are saved. That is until Sanji proceeds to disappear, only to leave behind a mitt? My canon is that he went to the Upside Down. At Bighorn, the citizens along with Walpole try to escape the avalanche. Though, much like Sanji, they all get swallowed up by the snow. Walpole, however, is able to eat his way out of the snow. Talk about brain freeze. Walpole, however, thinks it's a conspiracy, that it must have been the Straw Hats to do all this. And you know what? Who am I really? A collection of memories? Items? Am I just a being made out of star stuff drifting in the void of nothing? Who am I? Oh, I'm a One Piece fan! As for Luffy and the others, they make it out of the snow, and Luffy even saves a Lappin as a little baby Lappin cries for its parent. Both grateful, and they were saved by the benevolent Rubberman. My theory, of course, is that the Lappins are going to chip in with the final battle against Walpole and his men. That seems obvious enough. I think that would be pretty cool. Though, shockingly, Walpole catches up to Luffy, and he begins to, just talk to him, pretty much, kind of like berate him. Luffy simply ignores him, calling to Chess to write a new law. Anyone who ignores him dies. Though, smartly, Luffy remembers Sanji's words and begins to foot it as he runs away, dodging all of Walpole's attacks, though ends up almost running into Walpole's mouth, which is really creative since he has the munch fruit. So, of course, he would try to eat Luffy, but as Luffy continues to run, Chess, Kuramarimo, checkmate him, I like that name, as they begin to fire on Luffy. The Lappins come to save Luffy, however, while Luffy humorously calls them polar bears. I didn't realize Luffy was the inspiration for Dragon Ball Z Abridged Son Goku. Interestingly though, Walpole points out that Lappins hate humans, so why did they help Luffy? My guess is that it was the kindness that Luffy showed them by sparing them, instead of leaving the Lappin to suffocate in the snow. And who said being a nice guy is bad? So, Luffy escapes Walpole, and there he begins his arduous climb up to Drum Castle. For over 3 hours in the wind, the cold, even splitting his fingers and hands open and almost dropping Nami. This moment was an amazing, emotional one. Because as they make it to the top, we're treated to this wonderful black and white castle with so much detail put into it and care from Oda. This truly is one of the best moments of this arc, and it's because this is where we're supposed to get something fundamental about Luffy. Luffy will do anything for Nami. Time and time again, Luffy has been driven to the brink, all in the name for our orange-haired navigator. Obviously, we can say that because navigators are important, but I do think it's 100% only because he really and truly loves and adores Nami. And I don't mean romantically either. The bond between these two is as strong as steel, impenetrable as granite, stubborn as iron, robust as carbon. It's really heartwarming to see these two care for each other so much, and to repeatedly see the two time and time again save each other's lives. It's amazing. Luffy will walk the line for Nami. That's how much that he believes in their friendship, and honestly, that's how much I believe in these two characters. Though, if poetry in motion, the cliff falls from out under Luffy as he passes out from exhaustion. And there, to save him, the blue-nosed reindeer, Tony Chopper. On the flip side, Vivi is dragging Usopp up the mountain by his face. But they do run into a topless Zoro because you gotta do something for the ladies. Am I right, ladies? And also me? But as they arrive back in Bighorn, they find that Walpole's men have taken over the small village, leading Zoro to take him out and grab his coat to cover up those nice and meaty abs. In the castle, however, Nami is finally being treated by Dr. Kuroha, as she is told this is because of a Kestia. Eventually, Nami does come to and scares the shiitake mushrooms out of him, but holy crap, Nami looks so cute! I mean, Chopper tries to hide from Nami, and then tells her to get lost, but at the same time, asks her if her fever is better. This is just some really nice classic juxtaposition comedy at its finest. This is when Kuroha enters drinking some ume. Ume? What the fuck's that? Anyway, she checks Nami's temperature with the tip of her finger, very cool, and introduces herself. Also, I'm just realizing now, sorry by the way, time out on the video, Dr. Kuroha looks like Geddy Lee from Rush. I wonder if in the dub they got her to be voiced by him. I mean, I think that'd be pretty funny. Anyways, check out Rush. They're a pretty good band. Back to the video. So Kuroha explains to Nami in a fun way that the bacteria that's infected her has come from an insect called a Kestia. These ticks, when biting, infects the victim with virulent bacteria, and over the course of 5 days, it causes a fever which never drops below 104 degrees, meaning that Nami had around 2 days left of life before dying. How sad. Though, what's even more interesting is the Kestuas were eradicated 100 years ago, which of course, Dr. Kuroha just happened to keep a vaccine of, and thank God she did. So, now she has to sit and recover for 3 days, or else she is killed. But not by the sickness, but by Kuroha herself. Then, Chopper breaks into the room along with Luffy and Sanji, who are trying to eat Chopper. Why? Well, if only I knew, I would tell you. So, they knock out Luffy and Sanji and assess the damage. They begin to treat the others using the medications, phenocol, cardiotonic, and chiacillin. And the reason I'm describing this part is because I searched them up. Phenocol and chiacillin are basically antibiotics, while cardiotonics are medications that improve and increase the proficiency of the muscle which retract in your heart. So, yeah, Oda did his research. However, the dead, they rise. And as they rise and try to feast on Chopper once more, we learn from Kuroha that Chopper ate the human fruit, which basically allows him to do anything a human can do, and maybe a little more. And boy, do I look dumb. Last video, I theorized everything but Chopper eating a devil fruit. Might as well have said he joined the cast of American Chopper as Paul's new son. Wouldn't have been right anyhow. One Piece, in this arc so far at least, is a little bit of a mixed bag. But I think it's overall pretty good, judging from how far we've gotten into this arc. I think what's bothering me the most with it is Walpole. I don't necessarily have any issues with the character itself, but more on how he's being implemented. There is just something about his scenes that makes it feel a little more stilted, a little bit slower paced, when all I really want to do is get back to Chopper being a cute little guy. Though I will say this, I'm glad we finally got Nami some help and they wrapped that up quickly. That had the potential to feel a hell of a lot like Goku on Namek healing for 20 episodes, but thankfully, Oda didn't do that. However, the best parts continue to be Chopper, Kuroha, and even Dalton in these portions. I think that's most down to them not only being new characters, but new characters that really stand out. Dalton is the former evil guy who became good because he had a conscience, and that conscience got him killed in the very end. Dying a noble, sad, but most importantly, a pretty solid death, all things being said. My personal opinion, I always love the imagery of the hero being hit with arrows. I think that's just such a cool way to go out. Kuroha, on the other hand, is also, she's kooky, a little quirky, and her interactions make her feel really important, and she might as well be. I can sense that with her that they're going to sculpt the plot and pacing around her, if not for sure in this arc, surely a future one to some degree. I mean, she's just way too good of a character not to so far. And also, Chopper. And as Marin would say, and And that's pretty much how I feel about Chopper. He's just that cute, and I do wonder what this backstory will be like, if they do get there in this arc or not. I assume they will, Oda typically does that kind of thing. I feel like he could be the Nami of this saga, whereas in East Blue I felt far and away Nami was the character I loved the most, though there was a lot of contention as well in this arc with Vivi. Could be tied with Chopper, who knows? I think both are characters that honestly I really love dearly, and they're kind of similar in that regard, but ultimately I love them in different ways. Well, have to see. But you can see right now my next 3 One Piece videos by, I don't know, becoming a patron like, I don't know, for the first part of a little arc known as Ara Arabasta. Also, a huge thank you to my patrons for supporting my One Piece series. As well, if you want to talk to me, you can always join my Discord. Thanks for watching, everyone. I love you all. Bye-bye.